Where is cricket heading, Jarrod? With the IPL taking over the world, 2-month competition now, but more teams, 3 months a year, and then they're going to be buying, there's going to be investment in the 100. Are we just marching further and further towards white ball domination?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long this will take, but eventually the IPL will be 6 months of the year. It may even be 8 months of the year, like some of the other major leagues around the world. Like, there's too much money being left on the table. It's such a big, event. And even, it wasn't that long ago that the BCCI would laugh at the other boards of like, oh, we're in charge or whatever. The IPL owners are in charge now, whatever they want. And if I owned an IPL team, I don't want it just to be playing for 2 months of the year, do I? I want it to be playing as much as possible. But I also might want a 100 team or a major league cricket team, because who knows, maybe one of those could explode as well, and I could have those as my second and third biggest teams. But it's going to get way bigger, the IPL, and the only reason it hasn't is because the BCCI has been running it and Lalit Modi wasn't running it. Because I think if he was running it, we would already be at 3 or 4 months, and they would have worked out how they would be playing. I think there could be 20 sides. You could have 2 or 3 games a day. It could be like, Premier League or baseball or, basketball, one of those sorts of sports. And at the moment, it's more like an event. It's like a rock concert, right? Like, Delhi comes to town and they play a couple of games here, and then they go off, and you got one game at a time. You and I know if you have a boring game, TV people just turn off the channel. If you've got 2 or 3 games, they will flick until they find the one that's exciting. And that's what the IPL will eventually bank on.
And what does that mean for red ball cricket, international cricket, any other kind of cricket?
I think red ball cricket, the only chance it really has is separating from white ball cricket. And I've been on that for ages. Red ball cricket is still profitable, and it actually doesn't make anywhere near as much money as it should because it's run so badly by the boards themselves. If you ran it correctly, it could still make a lot of money, and you still see this thing of the more cricket fans there are, the more cricket fans still end up following Test cricket, right? It still happens. There's still a follow-on from white ball cricket through to red ball cricket. But that's not going to be the case if all the best players are playing in the IPL and none of them are playing anywhere else. Whereas if you can take the money model of Test cricket and actually sell it as a package, it may even, and this is, a lot of Test fans don't want to hear this, but it may even be franchise Test cricket that is the one that ends up being successful. But it has to be separated, because I promise you these boards are not looking after Test cricket. They're not making as much money from Test cricket as it should be made. And that keeps it really vulnerable when it shouldn't be vulnerable. And so something has to be done. It has to be separated out from everything else. Let the white ball people look after their game, let the red ball people look after their game, and let's see what happens. There's a lot, I don't know anything about motor racing, but it seems to me like there's lots of different kinds of motor racing, and different fans like different things.
Are you saying rugby and rugby union, rugby league?
It could be like that.
Two different sports, it's called rugby.
Yeah.
Just coming back to IPL and extending, and the India series could be 8 months. Whereas in the UK, you could say 4 months at a pinch.
Yes.
Is the cricket season. If it was extended, the IPL, is it still the one competition going on and on and on? Or is it 2 months of a competition, and then the next competition will be 100, and then the next competition will be back to T20? So there's 3 separate competitions over, say, a 4-month period.
Yeah, so at the moment, what they're talking about doing is having the IPL as the IPL, then having something like a T10 tournament or 100, something like that, which might even be played in Saudi Arabia, if we're being honest.
Yeah, so it's cricket, but a different style of cricket.
And then the Champions League would come back.
Yes.
That's probably 4 months of cricket right there. I think that's silly. And I think the IPL is the thing that everyone really wants to watch. And if I was doing it, I would have the IPL for a 4-month period.
So, hang on, you're saying that everybody wants to watch. That is everybody in India.
That's
So
their audience, though, isn't it?
What are the viewing? Of course, but that's the audience.
They don't need us to watch.
So, absolutely. So the viewing figures on TV, who is it now? Is it Sky that do the IPL?
Yeah.
What are the viewing figures?
I don't know what they are in. I mean, no one watches it in Australia.
Well, there you go. And I should think that in the UK, Sky would, the buzz term is decent numbers. Hang on, it's right in the middle of the football season, right in the middle of the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, those are big numbers. That's where you get your big numbers.
Yeah, but they're getting 30 and 40 million people watching it in India every night.
So
They
that's
don't need
the
a million
audience.
people
So
in the
that's
UK.
the audience.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about, let's expand cricket into America.
Yeah.
What's the IPL audience in America? I don't know. I should think it's not great.
No, it's not particularly great in America because of the time zones.
Yeah.
This is you and I know this.
So baseball in America is the World Championship. Well, hang on, there's only you play it.
Yeah. Baseball's only big in about 3 or 4 countries, right? But it makes a lot
Yeah,
of money.
it does, as does the NFL.
Yeah.
But the point you're making is this is an Indian tournament,
It isn't,
and
yeah.
the audience is big enough in India,
Of course.
so that it doesn't really matter outside of the country.
Correct.
What you're saying is there isn't that much of an audience for the IPL outside of India. I would agree. So how do the players in England and West Indies and all around the world play IPL cricket if international cricket is whittled away to such a point that it doesn't even really exist anymore?
The players will go where the money is, surely.
Yeah, but they've got to get to the money, right? So how do they do that if the international game withers away so much?
I'd say, so from my age, that every cricketer that I know, and we talk about Jimmy Anderson, let's talk about him again, you start in county cricket.
Right.
That's where you start, and you may move on. Joss Butler, you may move on to play white ball cricket out of this country. He started at Somerset.
You're a Fulham fan.
You know I am.
Who are your major international players? Where do they come from?
Nigeria.
Okay, so
Brazil.
They were scouted from the Nigerian national team, or were they scouted from Nigerian club football and from academies and from scouting networks and from everywhere else?
I think that they went through the club system.
Right?
But the club system in football is very different from the club system in cricket.
You already see scouts for the IPL going out and looking for these kids. They go to the West Indies and they go and watch net sessions. They, Odie and Smith, who
Are there any vacancies? I'm free. Yeah,
you like that gig?
I'd be my passion. Identifying, I think I've been quite good over the years of identifying talent. Ben Hollyoak, Andrew Flintoff.
Do you want me to get the Barneys on the phone?
I'll get them on. They're lovely people. Yeah.
Friends of the show.
Yeah.
So that's what you do, right? Odie and Smith, no one in this room knew who Odie and Smith was, and he'd already IPL scouts, and they'd already looked at footage of him, right?
Yeah.
This is now a huge network. We're now getting independent scouts who they just look at footage of like underage tournaments. They look at club cricket in New Zealand. They look at all this stuff and go, there's a 6'7" kid here with blonde hair who no one can hit. And he seems like a good bowler. And 5 years later, we know who Kyle Jamieson is. Right?
So I get back to England have to find a bolter to play going forward, and he will come from club and league cricket. And coming back to, he'll be 18 to 20 years of age. He will develop from 10. This is the way it's going to be. You've got to find the talent, identify the talent. I know that England are looking actively to find a bolter. Doesn't have to have played so many first-class games for a county. I'm going to look at, and he's talented. We're going to push that player forward. And the looking at quick bowlers, that's what they're after at the minute. The priority is fast bowlers, fast. So
young Jarrod Kimber grows up in the Burbs in Melbourne, and the young David Lloyd grows up in Accrington. Are you as in love with the game of cricket if you were growing up now, or maybe if you were growing up in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, as you were when you did grow up?
I mean, no, because I'm a different person. So, I mean, my life would, do you know what I mean? Like, I've moved myself and changed as a person, so it would be different. But I grew up loving club cricket. It didn't even occur to me that international cricket was the main form of cricket. I grew up knowing guys like, Westy and Gibbo, and yelling at them because they were the ones playing for our club side, right? So I grew up there, and then from there, the first format of cricket I got into professional was 50-over cricket in Victoria. Victoria were wearing the shorts those couple of years where they all got their knees up on the square trying to field win cricket without trousers on. That was how I got into it. What's the difference between that and getting into it via the IPL or anything else? I don't really see that.
I'm talking, not talking about the fact that apart from one's in the burbs of Melbourne and one's on TV
Yeah.
in India. So if you grew up and your first contact with the game was watching it,
Yeah.
like actually physically there.
But we didn't, we watched a few games for Victoria, but mostly it was on TV as well.
Telly wasn't invented when I started. It was on the radio. Just club cricket, club. Get down the club and play and practice.
So you feel that the depths of T20 cricket is exactly the same as the depths that the game goes to with the longer format?
I think it's a different sport than Test cricket. And I have this real problem with gatekeepers who say, oh, if you don't like Test cricket, you don't like cricket. It's like, I love indoor cricket, I love beach cricket, I love street cricket. Like, for me, it's like anywhere I can play it, anywhere I can watch it.
I agree.
I love going in India or Sri Lanka and watching them in the back alleys, and I will watch, and in my mind I start commentating and thinking about how these guys are going to play and everything. And I hate when people go, you don't like that. I grew up liking 50 over cricket in a family where my dad didn't even consider that real cricket. He's like, white ball cricket, that's Kerry Packer, I'm not interested in that guy, I only want Test cricket. But it got me into the other formats, and I learned to love the game as a whole. And so if Test cricket splits, if T20 splits, I'm still going to be able to love the bits that are left, because the actual game of cricket is incredible. And also, I'm a historian. I know that cricket has always changed. We pretend that it hasn't changed over and over again, right? And it has. For the longest time, county cricket was the biggest thing in the game. Even when we had Test cricket, county cricket was bigger than Test cricket, right? And there are some people who still feel that way. And those people are still being catered to, and probably will continue to be catered to one way or another. But the world keeps developing and things keep moving on. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to Bob Dylan anymore, but you might, you might be listening to Kendrick Lamar more in this day and age.
Who?
You've heard of Bob Dylan?
I have got so much Bob Dylan.
We're not going to go into Bob Willis jokes here.
Leonard Cohen, Lou Reed, I am miserable.
Friends of the show.
Yeah, Morrissey, Morrissey and the Smiths, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. I'm 100% the same, even more so about cricket than when I started. It's a fantastic game. It's in your soul. Cricket's in my soul. And so to think back when I started at Accrington, as you mentioned, and I'm in a changing room with Wesley Hall, with Eddie Barlow, that is so special to a young kid growing up in the game. The dressing room is sacrosanct. I'll move it on. That, the elation and the despair, the win, the lose of cricket, the dressing room, that changing room. There's a word that they're trying to ban, nonsense, banter. The banter in a changing room, the joshing that goes on, and as I said, the despair, the elation. I've done it at the highest level, at Test match level. Won matches, lost matches. You guys haven't. You're top of your profession in what you do. I will guarantee that at the end of a white hot game, that you've either won or you've lost, you get in that dressing room. I've seen it so desolate. Not a murmur. You've lost. 16, 20 people, not a murmur. And I've seen the place madness, absolute madness, with grown men acting like 4-year-olds. So that is so special. That stays with you forever. So when I first started with Wesley Hall as a kid, in short pants, going to nets, and Wes bringing me into the fold, to be in a dressing room as the England coach, that's some journey. That's a real journey. You can't describe what's gone on all the way through. Fantastic.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.